Hi, welcome to the 2024 Holiday Collab, the Holiday Hop. Our theme is vintage, and I'll be doing this collab with my friend Sylvia over at You and Me FPP, Melissa, Practically Creative, and our friend Dawn at My Quilt Projects. We have all kinds of good inspiration for y'all for the next 12 days from November 29th to December 10th. I think that's 12 days. Don't check my facts. Welcome to my channel. I'm Coleen. Here's some info on the quilted BOWL cozies that I found online. So it is vintage. Now this piece of paper is my template. It is 4.5 by 10. And here are my two pieces of cotton fabric, 10-inch squares. I'm putting my template with the fold side matched up on top of both of them and cutting off my corners. It's 1 inch up the short side and 2 inches down the fold side. And I've just rounded these corners. I made a million templates before I found one that worked. And seriously, I'm going to buy one because this was ridiculous. And I'm folding it the other way so I can get those darts in there too. After we get our darts cut out of our cotton fabrics, we're going to get our batting and cut out a 9.5 inch square. Why? Because we don't want it in the seam allowance. Trust me on this. I know from experience, and it was not fun. And still, I had to trim away from the seam allowance. It seems very fiddly, but it is totally worth it, and it didn't bother me. So I'm getting my two pieces of batting, 9.5 inches, and now I'm getting the template for them. And it's a little bit smaller. I tried drawing on the batting because I didn't want to hold the template here, and that pen did not write well on this. I eventually got a felt point pen and drew on the batting like that. So I've got both my batting pieces folded over, my template on there, and that rotary cutter decided not to rotate for me, so yep, I got the giant scissors. And it made pretty quick work of this. I was trying very hard not to cut my paper. I'm telling you, if you make a lot of these, splurge on one of the templates. I am saving all my scraps because I'm going to use them on a pillow, and that's the Wrap and Zap I used. I did pre-shrink it. Now I'm layering the 10-inch square that we cut down to the BOWL cozy with the piece of cotton, and I'll do this with both. I'm trying to keep the batting, I'm trying to keep the batting out of those seam allowances. If I see it to where it looks like it's going to be in there, I'll cut it back. And if you cut it a little bit more, it's okay. Because one of the steps I do is going to fix that right up in case you do. And when I say I pre-shrunk my batting, I put it in a tub of hot water in my washing machine. I just put pre-soak setting on my washing machine. I don't know how long it pre-soaks it, but I don't like the smart washing machines. A full tub of water for a piece of batting. Anyway, and yeah, I even put it in the dryer to dry for like 20 minutes on low, and probably half that time is just cooling off. Yeah, I do that, and it works. Now I'm going to use that felt tip pen and draw a line from dart to dart, crisscrossing, because that's where we're going to sew first. And here's my note to myself to make sure that I sew and then do the darts, because I skipped the darts once. Don't ask. It was not a happy memory. And I'm cutting back, like I said, if it looks like it's too much in the seam allowance, I'll cut it back. And this is the second part of the cross in the center of them. So once we get that done, I wanted to do one of the pretty stitches on my embroidery machine, because you got them, use them. And I decided to use a stipple stitch that if you're looking at this up close, you can tell that everything was off. I tried different thread brands. I tried, there were several things not going my way. The spool wasn't in the right spot. The thread in my bobbin case kept coming off wrong. So we're going to throw that one away and unstitch all that later, which probably turns out into just scrapping it. And we're going to start on this stack. Now that I've figured out it really had nothing to do with the tension. It was just the way the thread was coming off the spool and the bobbin case thread coming off wrong for some reason. I'm going to put this over about 1 inch from my foot, and I'm using a J foot, which is the universal foot on a brother. I'm starting off of the batting just on my cotton fabric, approximately 1 inch away, and that seam gauge, that metal seam gauge, magnetic, helped me stay where I needed to be all the way around, so I could turn it here with one hand on the corner. There is no stress to this once you figure out what happened to all those bad stitches you did. Why? It's just, I go around and then I don't even cut my threads. I go to the next one and do the same thing. I have the edge lined up, kind of. If it goes a little bit in or out, it's going to be fine. This is a stipple stitch. Nobody's going to notice, and that's why I picked it. It's a meander. Is that the right word? Maybe I was using the wrong word for it. Yeah. Anyway. It's that one right there, you know, the one on your screen.
It kept breaking on me.
I was getting onto my...
Trying to make it go too fast.
It was acting up, and I was telling it no. I had enough. I didn't do this all at once. I did it in spurts because I had several to do. And actually, I like this part. I did wind up, I guess I should tell you what the actual problem was. Besides the spool, I did wind up slowing down my machine to a medium speed so it would stop having all those problems. It worked. And these I am putting my right sides together, folding them in half, and doing the 1/4 inch seam on every dart. I'll do both on like each side of this half, and then I'll fold it over the other direction, and I'll do both on that half. Make sure the right sides of your fabrics are touching each other and the batting is on the outside. And I'm now cutting off some more of that. Like I said, it's so much easier than sewing it in your seam allowance. I even push it back when I'm sewing those closed to keep it out of my seam allowance. Now that we have all 4 of the darts on each piece sewn, I'm checking my darts because I felt it kind of slip towards the end there where the center, where it is at the bottom of the BOWL cozy. So I put my fingers in there and kind of push out on that seam just to make sure I've gotten all of them. And that's not the only one I missed because it was pushing and I didn't have enough pressure on it to keep it under the foot. So I'm double checking my seams here. Now I'll put the right sides together. And I want to line up eventually. One of these are going to get put together, I promise. I'm going to line up my darts, the seams on my darts with each other. And I'm going to pin them. You could use a clip. I think eventually I did, but I'm using pins right now. I thought they would work better. Since I cut the bulk out, they were pretty easy. And when you line these up, those petals will automatically line up for you, really. So you just have to make sure that the edges are even, like all your other sewing and piecing. Make sure the right sides together, your edges are even. I did not put that pin in my mouth. I didn't. Stop it. Don't comment. Jeez. Then we're going to speed through these. Okay, I put a clip at the high point of the petal, 2 inches from each other. I put 2 clips, 2 inches from each other. I'm going to remove one clip, and where I took that one off at, I'm going to back stitch. I'll go forward and then back, and I'll do it a couple times because I want this to hold when we're turning it out. And I say 2 inches because I did 1 inch, and that was not fun. I was like, oh, I can do a smaller stitch, I'll have less to sew closed in the end. No, no, don't get cocky like that. Oh, maybe you can. So when I'm sewing around with my right sides together and my petals, the cotton fabric together, I'm pushing the batting out of the way, at least the batting on top that I can see. I'm not so much worried about that on the bottom. Stop on the seam, pivot a little bit to continue the petals. And it's easier pushing this batting out of the way than trying to turn it and have all that bulk in your top stitching too. And since we did that other stitch, it's not going to fall. It's not going to go anywhere. I would suggest, if you have arthritis in your hands, get compression gloves. I got a cheap pair way back when I think they were like $6 or $7 at Walmart, because this was hard on my hands. It was pretty fiddly and it was hard on my hands. Other than making my hands angry at me, it's not so bad. I backstitch there, and there's my opening. And now we get to turn them out. That one didn't go so bad. I'm turning them all out, and then I'll go back and I'll press the seam allowances so they open better. This one, yeah, that's my seam ripper. That's the one that I thought smaller would be better. No, nope, that didn't work. I didn't use anything fancy to push out these petals. I just went in with my finger and my thumb and I ran them along the seam like you would with a chopstick or the purple thing, or and I said thing. I just used my hands. I was going to top stitch this down, so it was fine. And that's what I'm doing. Where it was open at, I tucked that in. I'm sorry I didn't show that very well. Tucked both the raw edges that were left inside about 1/4 of an inch. They should want to go in on their own. And I backstitch. And I've had to repeat myself because I've missed those seams many a time. And then I try to just do 1/8 of an inch. Now, when I did it with just the 2 pieces of the cotton fabric, when I went around with those, my stitch was at a 1.6 or 1.8. Now that I've got all this bulk, I'm moving it up to a 2.5 or a 5 for my stitch length. And I'm doing my best to get you some good shots so you can see what I'm doing. I stop at the corner. At the seam, just like before. I stop on the seam to pivot just a little bit. And then I round that soft petal right there. I don't know what else to call it. I'll do that all the way around, go back over my stitches that I started with just a little bit, and back stitch. Then I'll cut off my ends. I still bury my ends like we do with quilting. I don't know why. I'll cut them off and I'll bury my ends. Now this, in the bottom, I'm going from one dart to another, and once you get that bottom kind of pushed out with your hands, it's not that hard to go from one dart to the other, even without the walking foot. I just take my time and I make sure the fabric's flat underneath where I'm working. It can be all bunched up all the way around it, but where I'm running my foot at, I need that flat. And that just makes a cute little square in the bottom of these, which holds it together. You can put a big X again on it. You could, do whatever you want, but I just thought this was really cute. I hadn't seen anybody do it. If I had, I'd forgotten, or I'd tell you who it was. So this fits my giant soup bowl, my Corel cereal bowl, and this teeny tiny Asian bowl that I have. It works with all of them. I gotta tell you, I wouldn't put these in the microwave or any of them in the microwave just because I had one smolder on me one time. I did everything right. I think it picked up lint in the dryer. But they are great. We love them, especially in the cold weather for soup. Check out the vintage collab with all of us. I'll put links below for what I use and the other content creators' channels. I hope you enjoyed my part of the collab. Don't forget to check out my friends, Dawn at My Quilt Projects, Sylvia at UMEFPP, and Melissa at Practically Creative. I hope you have happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Take care, and especially this time of year, be the light you hope to see in others.